loving, patient, trustworthy, loyal, dependable, supportive, encourager, generous, creative, witty, compassionate, true friend, confidant. He loved unconditionally. He's my hero. These are just some of the words that describe my father, Jon E. Gearhart. I'm so grateful to have had a dad who portrayed the attributes of my heavenly Father and brought me up to love God and his word. It was during family devotions that I became a Christian at age 5. Dad always made everything better. That's just what they do. He had a wonderful way of reassuring me. When heading to college, I was afraid I may not do well and told him about it. And he said, "Denise, everything's gonna be okay. You'll be fine. We'll be proud of you no matter what. Everything will be okay." After Connor was born, we had lots of appointments with specialists to determine how to help and diagnose him. Many times my parents would stay with our older children, Ryan and Lauren, for us to take Connor to these specialist appointments. After visiting a specific genetic specialist when he was 6 months old, I remember coming home and just plopping down on the couch right beside my dad. They were looking at our son, trying to figure out what syndrome he might have. Is this ear lower? They were picking him apart, and I couldn't stand it. I just sat down, and he patted my leg and said, "Everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right." And I believed him. 4 weeks ago, I was having a very hard day, feeling very low. And you know what? I knew what I had to do. I had to go see my daddy because he makes everything better. I just wanted to sit beside him because he really wasn't saying much at the time. I held myself together till I saw him around the corner near the nurse's station. And I fell on my knees and laid my head on his shoulder and cried. I felt him slowly patting my back. I looked up and saw he too was crying as he asked me what was wrong. I explained, I was having a rough day and I just wanted to be with you. Because he always had a way to make it all work out for good. He struggled to pull himself forward in his chair to give me a big hug. I just held on to him and cried. I told him my struggles and concerns, and he said in a halting voice, "Everything will be all right." He gave me that gift once again, and I believe him. I'm thankful for a father who cared so much, poured into my life, and left an incredible legacy for us all. In closing, a friend recently wrote and said, "Denise, once again, as a parent, he's gone on before you, blazing the way and experiencing such joy, knowing that because of his leadership and example, his family will get to one day experience heaven with him." So thankful and blessed to be in this family and to have spent these final years with him living close by. Needless to say, we went to many ice cream places, he, Connor, and I let him have his pick. But the main thing is, my father always had my back, and I was privileged to have his as well.
Some of you have asked, what my father passed away from, and I just wanted to tell you that before I said what I wanted to say. And that is he had Parkinson's disease as well as he had dementia. And it was really hard for him to be able to breathe. His lungs had fluid in it, and it was really challenging for him to be able to cough or to get rid of that. And so then on the final hours when we were with him, he was having some challenges with breathing, but then after that, the medication which the nurses had given him, that helped him calm down. And one of the greatest gifts that God let us be able to do was to be with Dad when he was at the end. And as Uncle Jim said, we sang some hymns with him. We had a chance to tell him things that we really enjoyed about him. And we thanked him for the different things that he had done for us and how he had been there for us over the years. And it was very priceless because some of us were able to be there with him when he passed away. So I just wanted to tell you that in case you were wondering what had happened or what he had. Over the last couple months, well, actually the last 12 months or so, as he was getting continually worse, I had written a poem, and it's just a simple poem, and we were, as a family, we were talking about the fact of how much we don't want him to go, but at the same time, he really had no quality of life. And so we were praying and saying, Lord, just don't keep him here a second longer. And a little poem came to my mind. It said, take my earthly father, let him pass away, let him go see Jesus on this very day. And that was something, I had that on a 3x5 card that I would read and then also pray. So just a couple quick things that came to mind. You saw that I mentioned about wearing my father's hats. So first of all, here's his Marine hat. And Dad loved working outside in the woods, and that was something that he passed on to me. He loved raking leaves and sticks into fires. And so he loved doing fires, and that was a family highlight that we had of always remembering that. Oftentimes on Saturdays, he'd have a fire outside. Another thing that he did was, you saw the picture of the lawnmower, he did trails in the woods. And so I remember hearing the mower, seeing that he went into one area, and then waiting until he came out another area, and then he would say, okay. He'd say, now go back and take a look. And it was always that adventure, the unknown, but he passed that on to me as well. I love being out in the woods and nature, and especially doing trails. So another hat is his work hat. This is the one that I believe I had on when I was just about 3 years old. But one memory that Dad did is he always had a saying, do it right or not at all. And he had a business called Imperial Remodeling Contractors. And when I was old enough to be able to drive, my job the summer of my sophomore year was to drive the dump truck. And I had never driven a stick before, and that was going to be my job. So Dad said, okay, I'll pick you up after school. We'll go ahead and we'll have that driving lesson. So what he did is he drove the truck to a really steep hill in York that had cars on either side. He drove it 2/3 of the way up, pulled the emergency brake. He said, okay, now you do it. And so that's how I learned to drive stick, but it was the all or nothing. And I didn't hit a car, which was good, but that was just how he did it. It was always exciting of just teaching, but yet I really appreciate the fact that he had that trust and confidence in me, and that was something that he had done throughout my whole life. There was never a time of doubting, but just, you can do this. I have no doubt you can do it. Said about that he loves the Cardinals, and so this is his St. Louis Cardinals hat. One of the memories that I have is of when we were coming to the York Alliance Church. A lot of times Dad would take the men's group down to see a Baltimore's Orioles game. And they always liked when he drove because he drove fast and he would get them there quickly. So this is a cowboy hat that Mom and Dad always came to Denise's and my games, whether it was a home game or whether it was an away game, they were always there. And I can picture Dad wearing this hat at soccer games or track meets. And I remember one game in particular of where Dad wasn't there yet and Mother was there, and I was thinking, I wonder where he is and what's going on. But I saw his van pull up, and suddenly it was that feel of, all right, now it's time to play the game. And I always had that connection with my father. Same way with, I remember in high school basketball, I remember one time getting yelled at by the coach because I looked up to my father, who was up here, and the coach said, stop looking at your dad, I'm the coach. It was like, okay, what, Dad? I said, and the last hat is Dad's Marine hat. He loved the Marines, he loved America. He loved anything patriotic, and he loved the red, white, and blue. So you'll see that when we go down for the Sunday social down in the fellowship hall. In honor and in memory of Dad, we have that in red, white, and blue. You'll also notice on the program that we have a flag. And just take a look at the flag. It's not a crisp, new, clean flag. It's a flag which has been through some years and through some trials and challenges, and that's why we picked that. So I mentioned about the poem that I had read, and I changed that today. It says, "You took my earthly father, from earth took him away. Now he lives with Jesus on this very day." So I just wanted to say how much I appreciate my dad. I love my dad. And again, thank you all for coming today to celebrate his life.